invite you to stand as you're able to do so and join in singing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Good morning. I'm Marva Williams, and I'm the worship associate this morning, and I am here with our interim minister, Reverend Fritz, and Chrissy Bush-Uriger, who is our director of religious education. Please join me in the recitation of our covenant. And I'd like to ask Ginger Daly to come forward to light the candle. Enriched by our differences and joined together in our search for meaning, we covenant with ourselves and each other to seek truth in a spirit of love, to strive for justice, and to serve others with a joyful heart.
Please be seated. So we're trying a little experiment here in the month of February where we invite you at the beginning of the service to turn around and greet your neighbor. Of course, if you all turn around, you'll have to face someone's back. So those of you who can, turn around, and those of you who can't, greet the person in front of you and say hello, say, may peace be with you, or it's good to see you, or go Eagles. We'll ring this. There we go.
Good morning again. So if you're viewing this service by Zoom, please remember that you can activate closed captioning if it's helpful to you. And if you'd like to talk to others after the service, there will be a virtual coffee hour. Just stay logged in and you'll be invited into a breakout room. If you're attending this worship in person, please join us for coffee after the service and also soup that's being made by our young people. Please remain seated and join in singing our centering song.
Each Sunday, we gather in community, carrying whatever emotions we experience. We may be full of joy or sorrow, and we honor those feelings by dropping stones in this bowl of water. Just as the stones are held by the water, so are all who drop them held in love by this community. Please file up the aisle by the window and return down the center aisle. All are invited to join in this ritual. Those online can join us by entering joys and sorrows into our chat. And I will drop a final stone for the joys and sorrows of those online and those who are not able to be here today. And now I would like to invite Gabe Small to come forward and say a few words. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. The first time Liz and I stepped into this church for a Sunday service, this must have been about 2005 or 2006, there was a palpable buzz in the air, a giddy excitement, like everyone was holding a wonderful secret that they couldn't wait to share. And sure enough, during the service, the Ministerial Search Committee gathered up here on the stage to announce to the congregation that at long last they had found our guy and introduced us to Reverend Peter, who they would be recommending as our next minister. The moment that stands out most vividly in my memory was Penny Bartlett saying, "We cannot wait for you to meet him." I don't know how accurate that memory is, but that's how that day is encoded in my brain. Everything about this first impression of the church was contagious. Here was a community aligned with our values, enthusiastically pooling their energies and resources together towards a self-determined outcome. We felt as though we were getting in at the start of something new, and we jumped in with both feet, quickly becoming official book-signed members, joining every committee that asked us, and making a fund drive pledge. Since those heady early days, our participation in the life of the church has been more judicious and sustainable, and it's gone through several periods of ebb and flow as our life circumstances and needs have shifted, welcoming new babies into the world, adjusting to new work responsibilities, addressing mental health challenges, living through a pandemic, all the cross currents of life. Of course, the life of the church has gone through its own ebbs and flows as well. While Peter's retirement is the most obvious example right now, we've experienced many other retirements, departures, deaths, and welcomed many new staff, new families, new babies. And we've seen many programs evolve or come and go in a spirit of experimentation and creativity. And yet at the heart of all this change and dynamism lies the steady, pulsing heart of the church, a community populated by an ever-shifting mosaic of faces, yet held together by a shared set of purposes and principles. So regardless of the ebbs and flows of our own lives or the life of the church, we pledge every year because that's what keeps this pulsing heart strong. And in a community pooling its energies and resources together towards its own self-determined outcomes, there's always a chance of getting in at the start of something new. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Gabe. And we do have that slide. Yes, there it is. Members and friends, please make your pledge to our annual fund drive. Pledging is quick and easy. Submit your pledge online or put your paper pledge in the box in the lobby. Let's sing Spirit of Life.
Now is the time for our offertory. As you may remember, we used to pass the plate, but now we ask you to text your donation to the number on the screen. And there are also boxes in the back where you can leave your donation. Thank you very much.
Good morning. So I have a story today from storyteller Bill Harley. He's a Grammy Award-winning musician who also tells stories, and this is one of his. And you have to have a little bit of understanding about the sport of t-ball in order to get this story. So does anyone here play t-ball? Anyone ever played t-ball? I see a couple hands up. Okay, so t-ball is a sport that's like baseball or softball, played on that kind of field, on a diamond, you run around, but instead of having a pitcher throw the ball, you hit the ball off of a tee. And it's a game that's made for children like 5 to 7 years old so that they're learning the basics of baseball or softball. It's a learning kind of sport. And one of the things you need to know about t-ball is you can keep swinging as many times as you want to try to hit that ball. There's no strikeouts in t-ball. So there was this girl named Tanya. And Tanya was playing t-ball for the first time ever. This was her first t-ball season, and she was so excited. She loved it. She loved going to the games. She loved being out in the sunshine with all her friends. She loved the way the crowd would scream and yell, "Run, run!" She loved that. She was terrible at t-ball. She was really, really bad. She could not hit the ball. She didn't really understand the rules, but she was so enthusiastic, and she was having so much fun. She would get up to the tee, and she would swing, 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 and the grass in the outfield would grow taller, and the paint on the bleachers would dry and crack, and she would swing, and she would swing, and she would swing, and finally she might just kind of boop the ball, and it would fall off the tee, and she would run to first base, and the other team would come and get the ball, and they'd get her out, and that was how she played the game, and she was happy. It was fine. The final game of the season came along. Last game, final inning, and Tanya comes up to bat. And the kids on the other team come forward, out from the outfield, because they know she's just going to boop the ball, they're going to grab it, it'll be over. And some miracle happens. And Tanya swings, and she wallops that ball. She sends it flying like she's a Major League Baseball player. It goes way, way past. It goes out into where the tall grass grows, because they don't even bother mowing that part of the field, because nobody hits it that far. That's how far she hit it. And she stood there, because that never happened before. And so her parents start to yell, "Run, Tanya, run, run!" And Tanya starts running. She's running to first base. Now, all the kids on the other team, they need to go get that ball, right? So because it's t-ball, they all go in one big group to the back of the field, and they're all looking for that ball, and Tanya's running, and she's running, and she's running, and she gets to first base, and she stops, because she's never made it that far before. So she's standing there, and her coach is yelling, "Run, Tanya, run!" And the parents are yelling, "Run, Tanya, run!" And everybody's up on their feet, and they're screaming, and she starts to run to second. Meanwhile, the kids in the field, they found the ball, and one of them raises it high, and then it falls. Now they all pile on it, like in football when somebody fumbles. So they're all in a pile in the way back of the field, and Tanya is running and running and running, and she gets all the way to third base. She's never been in this part of the field before. She's looking around, and her coach is standing on home plate, and his face is bright red from screaming. Everybody's on their feet, and he's screaming, "Run, Tanya, run, run! It's going to be a home run! You're going to score! Come on, come on, come on!" Tanya starts to run. Meanwhile, in the backfield, some kid has finally come up with the ball. And instead of throwing it, which you would learn to do like in baseball, he starts to run because he's going to be the hero. So he's running all the way from the outfield. And Tanya's on third base, and her coach is screaming, and everyone's screaming. And all of this noise wakes up the dog. Now, I didn't mention the dog earlier because the dog is just a fixture at these games. He's some neighbor's dog, an old golden retriever. You can tell he's old because he has that white on his face, like a little snowy face. And he spends all day just laying against the fence while these baseball games are going on. No one really notices him, and he doesn't bother anybody, just a sweet old dog. But all of this noise has woken him up. So he gets up and he stretches and he wiggles his floof and he starts to walk over toward the third base line because he wants to know what's happening. And he looks at Tanya and he raises one eyebrow and he raises the other eyebrow and he starts to walk towards her. So Tanya's coach is on home plate and he sees it. He sees the moment it happens. When all of a sudden Tanya, who's focused on home plate, notices the dog, and her whole face lights up. And the coach yells, "No! Come on, run home!" And her parents, you know how parents, we can notice when our kids, we notice when their moods change sometimes? Her parents could see it from the bleachers. They said, "No, Tanya, run, you're gonna score. You're gonna get a home run." But Tanya, she's looking at the dog. And she stops. And the kid from the outfield comes running in and hits her with the ball, probably a little harder than he meant to, but the momentum, he was running. And the parent who is standing there, the umpire, somebody's dad, yells, "Out!" Very sadly, because everyone was so excited, but Tanya is cuddling the dog, scratching him behind his ears, and it goes quiet. There was this thing that was supposed to happen. Everyone expected it to happen, and then Tanya made a different choice. And she's down on the ground, rubbing the dog's belly, and the dog's legs are going like this. And the umpire starts to clap. And the coaches start to clap. And the parents start to clap. And everyone is clapping, and the dog is happy, and Tanya is happy. Sometimes we go for the win. Sometimes we run home and we go for the win, and sometimes we go for the dog. Thank you for listening to my story today. All right, it's time for our children to go to RE. We have a different sending song today. You'll catch on when Bob starts playing it. He's gonna play it through, and then we'll have everybody to go to RE, okay?
So I grew up in a family as an only girl with 3 brothers. So I became accustomed to the toilet seat always up and to sports. My brothers played sports and they watched sports with my father on Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, Sundays, Monday nights, etc. So I thought this was kind of strange and weird, but what the heck? But I was outside of it. So puberty hit, and I fell in love. And the object of my affection was Rusty Torres, who was an outfielder for the Cleveland Indians. He was my god. He hit 1 home run the entire season, So he was not the greatest player in the world, but I loved him. So I came to learn later that this identification with sports teams is all about social psychology. We come to identify with them to the extent that when Michael Jordan swishes that ball, we're doing that. When someone hits that home run, that's us. When someone makes that catch, that's us. And when you think about it, there we wear the sports t-shirts and jerseys. We paint our faces the colors of the sports teams. And we go to games, and we are happy when the team wins, and we're bummed when they lose. So I have a confession. When the Cleveland Indians changed their name from that racist name, Indians, with a horrible Chief Wahoo as the mascot, and became the Cleveland Guardians, I knew that this was a sign that they were going to win the World Series. So think about, Michael Jordan, who wore the same pair of underwear as a way of providing, good luck charm for his playing, and all the superstitions that many of us participate in. So I was sure the Cleveland Indians would win. And then I come to marry a man who seamlessly weaves through sports for 12 months. So at one point it's baseball, and then it's basketball, and then it's golf, and then it's tennis, and every sport imaginable. But my team are the Cleveland Indians. And although I may laugh and scoff a little about the allegiance that many of us have for sports teams, if the Cleveland Indians win the World Series, the Cleveland Guardians win the World Series, if I have to crawl to Cleveland to go to that party, I will be there.
Well, sometimes people become obsessed with sports, you may have noticed this week. Consider the story of two men who are out on a golf course playing. They reach the 7th hole of the course, and it happens to be near a road. Along the road, a funeral procession passes. First comes the hearse, then a limousine, and then more cars with their lights on, headed towards the cemetery. But one of the golfers stops his play. He takes off his hat. He bows his head as the procession passes. When all the cars have left, he puts his hat back on and he resumes his golf game. His companion says, "I didn't realize you were so religious." The man replies, "Well, I just wanted to show my respect. After all, she and I were married for more than 30 years. It's a Florida joke, really. If we define religion as something to which people are fanatically devoted, perhaps sports is America's real religion. This evening, more than 100 million people will watch the Super Bowl in the United States. There's no other activity that so many of us do together at the same time. The rate of crime will drop dramatically during the game. Michael Novak, in his book, The Joy of Sports, invites us to imagine that we are anthropologists from a distant planet, say Mars. We fly from Mars to the United States, and we try to understand the way of life of the people that we see below us. Flying over the land, we notice great ovals near every large city. We descend and observe. We learn that the oval is called a stadium. It is used roughly once a week in certain seasons. Weekly, millions of citizens stream into these concrete donuts. They pay handsomely to go inside. They are alternatively hushed, awed, outraged, and screaming mad at what they see. The combatants on the field appear resolute. So also are the dancers and the musicians who occupied the arena before, during, and after the combat. We observe that in millions of homes, at corner shrines, in every household sacred room, a screen connects other citizens to the same events. At critical moments, the most intense worshipers demand silence of the less attentive. It appears that much of the nation is united in this public ritual. Afterwards, we notice joy or depression among millions of people. Most anthropologists would call this a religion. Now, if we define religion as a collection of dramatic rituals, then sports is a religion. The football ritual includes the pre-game, the game, the halftime, the second half, and the post-game. In the game itself, the players line up and repeat the same basic ritual action over and over again. Observers delight in the subtle differences of each play. They comment on the skill and integrity of the players as they watch the different variations on the basic ritual. If we define religion as an organized and structured devotional activity, then sports is a religion. Each sport has a developed organization with lengthy and detailed rule books, along with articles of incorporation, officers, and a hierarchy. The rule books list ethical and unethical behavior. A player who is caught cheating can be banned from the sport for committing heresy. If we define religion as celebrating the best qualities in human beings, then sports is a religion. Sports celebrate not only physical strength, but also skill, intelligence, and personal integrity. Sports hold up examples of excellence so high that human beings live up to them only rarely. Sports hold up images of perfection so beautiful that living up to them or seeing someone else live up to them produces a kind of wonder, a feeling of awe. Players who persist in the face of adversity, those who keep playing and do not quit, are held up as heroes. These heroes dramatize the qualities that are some of the highest human virtues. If we define religion as the exploration of feelings that we have about risk and about fate, then sports is a religion. Life is dangerous and unpredictable. Sports is a ritualistic acting out of this experience. In life, what we prepare for with careful practice seldom happens exactly the way we planned. And in the same way, the careful practicing of plays of basketball or football seldom turn out exactly as planned. In this way, sports is a symbolic acting out of the struggles of our lives. If we define religion as the human attempt to cope with the hard issues of daily human living, issues such as aging, dying, failure, betrayal, and fear, then sports is a religion. Competitive sports symbolically struggles with the same issues. Players struggle with injuries, and then later at the end of their careers, they struggle with when to retire. If we define religion as an act of setting aside certain days and hours as sacred times that mark cycles of our year, then sports is a religion. Sports follows a yearly cycle. Spring is basketball, summer is baseball, fall and winter are football, leading to the Super Bowl today. Traffic will be light tonight as much of the nation observes the annual sacred time of the Super Bowl. If we define religion as a feeling of intense, timeless experience, then sports is a religion. Sports players describe being in the zone. It refers to a player who is performing perfectly, without strain or conscious thought, and oblivious to material reality. The sense of time disappears. You forget yourself. You feel part of something larger. Being in the zone is another world, a groundless realm where no boundaries exist. While it's a rare experience, it points to a potential in everyone, to an excellence beyond our normal experience. Well, as you can see then, I find many similarities between sports and religion. However, if you do not see the connection, you are not alone. Before 1850, American Protestant groups condemned sports as sinful because they diverted attention and consumed energy that could be spent in the exercise of religion. The clergy condemned horse racing because it promoted gambling. They condemned prize fighting and the forerunner of baseball called town ball because they were considered brutal. Clergy criticized the sports pages of newspapers for encouraging unhealthy attitudes for non-spiritual concerns. Even croquet posed moral problems. A 19th century clergy wrote this: "When young Christians should be reading the Bible, meditating, conversing about religious matters, praying, or attending to some important religious duty, they're often found playing croquet." We have in our mind the history of two interesting young ladies who were in the habit of playing croquet by moonlight, frequently until past midnight and even until 2 o'clock in the morning. The result of their dispensation was consumption from cold and a very sad and untimely death, without that preparation which consists in holiness, without which no one shall see the Lord. So if you play croquet, consider yourself warned. Until the 1930s, most religious groups protested the playing of baseball on Sundays. Billy Sunday, a professional baseball player turned preacher, said that the schedules and the ways of professional sport could not be reconciled with religion. But after World War II, by about 1950, most churches had developed a grudging acceptance of sports, even on Sunday. During the last part of the 20th century, the popularity of the Super Bowl on Sunday created a special dilemma for churches. At various Super Bowl sites, one evangelical group distributed flyers that described Christ as the real champion. One year, when the Super Bowl was in Miami, a group of Methodist churches hired an airplane to tow a huge banner over the stadium that read, "Jesus is the real Super Bowl hero." And tonight, a Christian group has paid $20 million to have an ad promoting Jesus played during the TV broadcast. But eventually, the popularity of the game led to an accommodation by most churches. Churches with Sunday evening worship shifted the time of the services so they wouldn't conflict with the viewing of the Super Bowl. Many congregations now feature a fellowship meal known as Super Sunday, S-O-U-P-E-R, Super Sunday. Churches have a meal of soup on Super Bowl Sunday, and indeed, we are part of this trend. We will have soup available in exchange for a small donation after the service. I say donation because the NFL went after churches who were charging for attendance at church Super Bowl parties, saying that this was not allowed by the NFL rules. Then Congress got involved and a law was proposed that would allow churches to have Super Bowl parties. But then the NFL backed down and said, if you call it a donation, then we won't sue the churches. This was in 2008. Obviously, all religions, including the religion of sports, have evils and excesses. Sports are never free from corruption. For example, the beer owners dominate sports with endless commercials promoting an alcoholic beverage that leads to obesity, drunk driving, the dysfunction of families, and the destruction of livers. I've never liked the excess drinking that sports advertising promotes. The hucksters of sports tell us that it is crucial to the economy to have sports. They tell us that sports supports colleges, it increases the revenue of cities, and contributes to the vitality of the capitalist system. Such a view leads politicians to subsidize stadium construction while other needs go underfunded, and while players experience injuries that last a lifetime. I've never liked the exploiting of the players, or the gross signs of commercialism and the greed that is part of American sports. Now, the sexists among us tell us that sports is a male activity. With the logic of oppression, we're told that it demands a strength, a courage, and aggressiveness which is absent in women. Women, we are told, are more properly positioned as cheerleaders, who are paid by the NFL an average of $150 a game. Such an approach produces a country of stupid men and angry women. Of course, not all sports are played by men. Personally, my favorite team is a women's basketball team called the Washington Mystics. The women are highly skilled. I can afford their tickets. And I like the fact that the Washington Mystics are named after a theological belief system. I think we should have the theists as a sports name, maybe perhaps the agnostics, maybe even the atheists, I don't know. The Washington Mystics is a great name. So like all human religions, sports has its evil side, but still, I find much in sports that is positive. At its best, sports teaches us positive social skills that make us better persons. Now, a man named Michael Malkeby did research in the 1970s going into businesses and interviewing people, and he found an amazing thing in his research. Business managers who played sports in elementary school, high school, and perhaps even college tended to be free of prejudice. They had learned that whoever is good should be allowed to play, should be promoted and included. Neither race nor religion are important. What was important to these business managers that he studied is a person's ability to contribute to the team. Business persons who played on teams, he found, feel at home working on an interdependent team to achieve a goal. They know how to apply the skills of cooperation. And at this time in our nation's history, I think sports can teach us an important skill that all of us need to learn. I think of a Peanuts cartoon strip of years ago. The first frame showed Linus sitting in front of a TV set. His arms are upraised, his face is glowing. "Fantastic!" he exclaimed. And he runs outside where Charlie Brown stood, inert on the grass. Charlie Brown is holding a football. "Charlie Brown," Linus said excitedly, "I just saw the most unbelievable football game ever played. What a comeback." Charlie Brown listened intently as Linus gave a thumbnail sketch of the end of the game. The home team was behind, 6-0, with only 3 seconds to play. They had the ball on their own 1-yard line. Linus had begun to feel the excitement of the game all over again. He waved his arms about and he jumped up and down. The quarterback took the ball, faded back behind his own goalpost, and threw a perfect pass to the left end, who whirled away from 4 guys and ran all the way for a touchdown. The fans went wild. You should have seen them. People were jumping up and down, and when they kicked the extra point and won the game, thousands of people ran onto the field laughing and screaming. The fans and the players were so happy. They were rolling on the ground. They were hugging each other. They were dancing and everything. "It was fantastic," Linus concluded. Charlie Brown looked at him intently and soberly, and he asked, "How did the other team feel?" How did the other team feel? We can imagine how the losing team felt. Learning to deal with loss is part of playing sports. When I was a child, I played basketball on the 8th grade team in my elementary school. Besides learning plays to use against the kids in the other elementary schools, we learned about winning and we learned about losing. The coach said to us, when you win, do not take pleasure in another team's defeat." Mr. Martindale's his name. He said, "They try to do their best. Treat them with respect. Shake their hands. Say, 'Good game.' Be humble in victory." Then the coach said, when you lose, do not embarrass yourself or your teammates by blaming the other team or by disputing the results. Take responsibility for your loss. Shake hands with the members of the other team and say, "Good game." Then do not hold on to the loss, endlessly whining that it was not fair and that you really won. Maturity, the coach said, is facing reality and accepting the loss and moving on. So playing sports as a child, I learned that even when I lose, I am still a good person. I could tell my life story as a story about losing. As a teenager, I applied and was rejected by 3 colleges. I could focus on that, but I prefer to remember that I had a wonderful education at Arizona State University that did accept me. Each of us has a choice about how we tell the story of our life. In my 20s, I dated women who eventually broke up with me. I could focus on that, on the rejection. But I prefer to remember that when I was 28, I met Leslie, and we've been married for more than 40 years. I applied during my career as a minister for churches that I did not get. I could focus on that. But I prefer to remember that I was lucky to be called to serve 5 Unitarian Universalist churches. And now I am blessed, I am lucky to be spending a year with all of you fine people. The way we tell our story can be a story about failure or success. And the sports I played as a child helped teach me to put the losses behind me and to make the successes the story of my life. Tonight is the Super Bowl. 60% of the nation will not be watching. Only 100 million of us will. Some of you find meaning in life in other ways. Nevertheless, I probably will watch, and I do like sports. When you take away the trophies and the rings and the prize money and the Wheaties endorsement and the media hype, what is left is the skill, the determination, the wisdom, and the ethics of the players. Whatever the outcome of this evening's game, both the winners and the losers have my respect and my admiration. Let's sing our closing hymn. Let it be a dance.
Let it be a dance, let it be a it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Let it sunshine, let it rain, share the laughter, bear the pain, and round we go again. Let it be a dance.
We'll keep practicing that one until we get it right. Let's join together in our closing words. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. And for those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Blessed be.